Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work. I hope you are safe and healthy no matter where you are in the world right now and are excited for today's episode of the Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast episode. And today I'm joined by a really inspirational public figure in Lomit Patel, who is a vice president of growth at Imvu, responsible for user acquisition, retention, and monetization. Prior to Imvu, Lomit managed growth at early stage startups, including Roku, which IPO, Trust ID, acquired by Equifax, Texture, acquired by Apple, and Earthlink. Lomit is a public speaker, author, advisor, and recognized as a mobile hero by Liftoff. Recently, he dropped a book called Lean AI, which is part of Eric Ries's The Lean Startup series and published by O'Reilly. And the book provides this practical framework on how organizations and teams can implement AI to be more agile and completely overhaul existing processes and improve their products as well. So you know what? I'm excited because today I'm going to be talking with my boy, Mr. Patel, about how do we think about lean AI and how will it affect, how will artificial intelligence change how teams work? So without further ado, let me bring Lomit on, and I would love to show love to our amazing audience. Lomit, welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, Tim. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Dude, it's so
Yeah,
awesome to have you on the show. And I know you're probably at home right now, like the rest of us. How's everything been going with you?
it's going well. It's all about adjusting to the new normal, right?
Yeah,
And trying to make the most of every day. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I feel that we're fortunate, right? That we can still work from
yeah.
being at home. So that's a blessing. Being able to keep busy and clearly getting more time to spend with the family.
Yeah.
So that's nice too.
Man, I love that. So I want to show love to our amazing audience. So our Unleashing the Future of Work community is all over the world. Xavier, show us some love. Where are you tuning in from? I see Xavier is tuning in right now. What's up? Good afternoon, Xavier. I hope you're well. If you're tuning in from Nigeria, the UK, Texas, California, wherever you are, please mention it in the comments and I'll give you a shout out and show you some love. But with that said, Lomit, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and how did you get into doing the work that you do now with Imvu?
Yeah. So my background, is that I always, growing up, I always was
Mm,
fascinated about why people do what they do,
yeah.
and I studied marketing in college, and I grew up in the UK, and I moved to the US primarily right around the time when the internet was really taking off, and there were companies like
Mm,
AOL and Yahoo, and all these companies were coming up, but none of this was really happening in the UK, and I was just fascinated, with this whole idea of the internet.
yeah.
And so I moved over to the US for grad school, and that really gave me the opportunity, once I graduated to like I really wanted to work in tech and work in
Yeah.
online marketing. Right? I mean, that was kind of my goal. And fortunately, after I graduated, you know, as with any career, there's never a linear path, right? To
Absolutely.
success. There's a lot of twists and turns, but long story short, looking back and connecting the dots, every the journey has been the blessing at the end of the day.
Mm,
You get to different destinations, and you achieve different accolades and different titles on the way, but but the best part about it is always a journey and learning and growing. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. For you in your journey, because you've been working in tech for a
yeah.
while now, how did you get passionate about tech? I want to know, man, because we have a huge audience here that works in the Unleashing the Future of Work community that works across multiple industries, but a lot of them are really passionate about tech and innovation and business as well. So, what really helped you develop that passion within you?
Yeah. So for me, I'm always thinking about what's next kind of
Yeah.
question, and the idea is, a lot of the things that really start off, a lot of the
Mm,
trends, the tech trends, they, a lot of that really starts out here in kind of Silicon Valley and San Francisco. So,
mm,
for me, the quest was really to kind of get myself here, and
yeah.
sort of try. try to figure out how I could sort of be part of the ecosystem. But
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what makes it more passionate for me is is just like with anything, I'm passionate about things that make people's lives better at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And so, technology that's used for good, that provides value, and innovation that really helps people to do better and be better. Those are the things that really excite me.
I love that. Similar to you, man. My journey into tech has been the same way. I've always been fascinated about building things and tinkering and innovation, and
Mm.
and that's actually what really inspired the work that we're now doing with Guide and the company and the venture that we're building. It's a matter of how do we create things that add value, scale, and then can impact millions, if not billions, of lives, which often takes time, right? Lomit, today we're talking about AI. Right. So I want to, your book, Lean AI, you recently launched it. It's amazing. I want to talk to you a little bit about what inspired that first book for you, because artificial intelligence is hot right now. Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, so the book Lean AI, in terms of what inspired me, was primarily, you know, I've been practicing this. It's not just about
Mm,
talking about it. I've been actually doing this for, hardcore for the last like 3-4
mm,
years, and I've really seen the profound change it's really made just to the business, the company where I'm working right now at Enview, you know, where it's kind of like, where you're wearing like sunglasses,
mm,
and then you kind of walk out, and until you take those lenses off, you don't really realize exactly what's out there, because you're kind of living
mm.
in this little bubble. And so what excited me was, I speak a lot at different conferences, and the more I started speaking about this, the more I came to realize that this was actually, something that most people aren't even doing right now. They're still
Yeah.
kind of wearing those glasses, and they're kind of looking at the world through a different preview,
Yeah.
and so that kind of made me even more passionate. It's like, I really wanted to share this story because I want to try to inspire other people, that because ultimately, with AI, there's different use cases, but the use case that I was primarily focused on was coming from the standpoint of any business. What's the biggest challenge you have? And then primarily the challenge is always around acquiring customers and driving
Mm.
revenue. And so,
True.
what's a better and smarter way to do that? And just like anything, people are going to continue to do it the way that they thought it was done, because they don't really know that there is a better way. And
Mm.
with AI, it pretty much gives you a competitive advantage to do it in a way we can be doing it with less effort, and getting exponentially more results from
Yeah.
what you're doing. And so, just sharing that story,
Yeah.
inspired me to write the book. and
I
and
love
plus,
that.
yeah.
I love that. So you have to get that out there to the world and kind of
Yeah.
use it as and give that instruction manual and
Yeah.
playbook for organizations. So talk to me, what are a few companies that you see right now that are, that are ahead of the curve in terms of how they're implementing lean AI methodologies?
Sure. So, uh, I mean, I use a couple of examples of companies that most people might know. Like, for example, Netflix is one company,
Mm,
a lot of people can relate to. But, I mean, one thing that Netflix does really well in terms of using AI is their goal is to make sure that they continue to give you recommendations on things to watch
mm,
that keep you watching, right?
yeah.
Because ultimately, any company right now, I'm talking about like different apps, they're all competing for your attention. That's what it's coming down to. We're in
Mm,
the attention economy, and there's 24 hours in a day, and let's say you take like 6 to 8 hours of that out for sleep, and some of the other time for work. But whatever, generally people have about, let's say, 5 to 6 hours. All these companies want you to spend that 5 to 6 hours with them. So it's like, Facebook wants you to spend it with them. So Facebook, continues to use AI to sort of come up with these, algorithms to keep giving you these, messages on your feed to keep having you come back to see what your friends are doing. Netflix does it, recommendations. And then, there's other companies like, you know, um, like Amazon that have all this amazing data on customers, so they can use that to literally go out and figure out, who's the right customers they want to try to bring in
Mm,
and turn into like Prime subscribers, right? And they give you recommendations. Like if you go to Amazon, they give you recommendations. It's like you going in there to buy one thing, but suddenly they're exposing you to all these other things that you didn't even really think you needed to buy, but it makes a lot of sense because they all know all this history and
mm.
on your purchase patterns and what you've looked at, and so they come up with these recommendations that are so much, in tune with trying to get you to spend more money or spend more time with them. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard that term before, that we're living in the attention economy, and I would love to get the thoughts of our amazing audience and community. Shout out to Elvira, who's mentioning that I do my best work on Earth. It's where I keep my stuff. That's funny. Shout out to you, Elvira. Lisa is tuning in from San Francisco. Erinze is tuning in from Houston, Texas. Brianna is tuning in from Dallas, Texas. Shout out to each of you all. What are your thoughts? Do you believe that we're living in the attention economy now? And if so, why? Right? And what are the platforms that you use that you believe are vying for your attention? Netflix, and you mentioned how, Netflix is one of those companies that's using AI to really be able to curate content, right?
Right.
Algorithmically for you, that's tailored to your interest. And I mean, recently they recently, what is it? I forgot. It's called Lion King or Baby Tiger, or like this really popular
Tiger King.
Tiger King. Tiger King. And it's fun. I think what's so interesting about Netflix is how their
Yeah.
content it doesn't only, it goes beyond just Netflix. Like, it becomes a cultural phenomenon because they know so well what people will talk about. Right.
Right.
And I think it really goes to your point, Lomit, about they're using AI to actually say, we know people are interested in tigers, documentaries and a series such as this, and they're willing to talk about it, not just only on Netflix, but beyond Netflix.
Yeah, and at the core of all these companies, which kind of goes back to what fascinated me when I was
Yeah.
young, is why do people do what they do? It's all about human psychology, right? And
Mm.
so, a lot of these companies, they either try to use AI to sort of come up with messages around scarcity that is only a little bit left, so
Yeah.
get on right now, or they come up with or they try to use the psychology around the fear of missing out, where all
Mm.
these people are like watching Tiger King. You don't want to be the last one to like watch this, right? So they sort of have
Yeah.
these, yeah. So you know, in between those extremes, the only reason they're able to do that is because they have all this data, right, in terms of what people
Mm.
are watching, and so out of that, you know, they they get a pretty good idea. For example, what if I'm using San Francisco as an example? So in San Francisco,
Mm.
they kind of know what are the most popular things people are watching within different
Mm.
zip codes, and from that they can kind of curate content because they know where your zip code is, and you and I don't really know whether the thing that
Mm.
I look on Netflix is even the same as what you're looking at because you're in a different city from me
Mm.
right now. But Netflix is ultimately, it comes down to personalization. They're trying to get as close to
Mm.
personalizing the experience in the product, in the ad, and the advertising that they're trying to target you with, and then then in the messages that they want to try to curate the content to keep you around. So
Mm. I love that.
so ultimately AI is really helping them to get. I mean, everybody's talked about personalization
Mm.
because in the old days, it was all about you know I feel this is the right thing. It's all about instincts, right? People,
Yeah.
and but now you don't need to like, you know, uh, put that much pressure on yourself to sort of become like, the genius who can come up with the right idea. Because the reality is, just like you come up with anything, your chances of success, it's like tossing the coin, right? You could either be right half the time or you can be wrong half the time,
Yeah.
right? But with data, and especially
Yeah.
with AI kind of tells you what's really going on. It gives you the
Mm.
insights. So it does all that hard work, and then it's really up to you to kind of take that and leverage it for whichever goals and objectives you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, truly making informed decisions. I love
Yeah.
that. So shout out to Ayomide, who's tuning in from Dallas, and Barb from Tehachapi, California. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Barb. And Javon from Austin, Texas. So, I want to talk to you, Lomit, about, we're talking about organizations like Netflix. How do you think organizations can adopt an abundant mindset within their organization when it comes to implementing, whether it be lean processes or technology such as artificial intelligence to drive outcomes?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, I think, the first part of what you said is mindset is so important, right? To sort of
Mm,
have a growth mindset. And, what that really, I mean, for me, what it really comes down to, and I've worked in growth for over 20 years,
yeah,
part of it is if you're working in a business where you're actually responsible for driving growth, then you have to continue to push the envelope. You have to be innovative. You have to keep
yeah,
trying new things. You have to pretty much put yourself out there and take risks because things may not work out, but
yeah,
you got to have that sense of like confidence in yourself, but also in the teams that you're working with, or your
mm,
manager, to have that psychological safety where, for example, if I try this and it doesn't work, you're not going to push me under the bus, right?
mm,
And so I feel, at least what I've seen here in San Francisco and Silicon Valley, a lot of the startups, you know have try to adopt this mindset of trying to test, learn, and iterate. So the idea is really having basically having a learning mentality from day one, and trying to do a lot of different things and really figure out what works and what doesn't work. And the only reason why I feel it works really well with startups is because with a startup, you're kind of doomed to failure right from the start. The
mm,
chances of any startup succeeding is less than 10%, right? Your failure rate is so high. So kind of going into something where the odds are already stacked against you, and then you've got potential investors that have given you money.
yeah,
They're giving you money because they want you to sort of be the statistic that actually makes it and
yeah,
doesn't lose it. And
yeah,
so in order for that to happen, they encourage the whole mindset around go, have this learning mentality, try a lot of things, figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. And also, if things don't work, they will support you to pivot, which means change from
mm,
trying one business model, let's say, that didn't work, to try a different business model, or launching one product that didn't work, go back and change it, try a different product. So
mm,
I feel that it, if it comes from the top, it's a lot easier because then it becomes part of the culture. But if it doesn't, if you don't get the support from the top, from like the executive team, the investors that are really behind us, then it's really hard for anyone sort of coming into any company and trying to be that lone ranger of trying to try different things. And because what happens is, it's with human behavior, it really comes down to how do you incent good and bad behavior, right? So
mm,
if you incent good behavior, being go try stuff. If it doesn't work, you know what? Let's keep
yeah,
going, and let's keep trying. You know, then everyone in the company is going to have the mindset. Let's keep doing this. Because you know what? That's
mm,
what's expected of us. While if you go into a company where the behavior is incented to stick to what's working, don't
yeah,
don't take too many risks, and if you do, there's some kind of reprimand or punishment, then people are going to be really careful about getting too close to the boundaries of pushing things, right? And so
yeah,
then you get into the mundane, doing the same stuff, and and not taking too many risks,
yeah.
which is generally what happens when companies get bigger for the most part. Because when you get bigger and you get bloated, then you uh,
True.
then you start playing defense instead of offense, right? Because then you don't want to lose
Mm.
versus you're fighting to try and win. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you become more protective, more guarded. And it's so
yeah,
funny you say that because I do truly believe one of the things that, you have to be adamant about whether you're leading an organization or you're building a product is developing a learning advantage, right? And the only way to develop a learning advantage, whether it be using AI, is to launch. It's to actually launch,
yeah,
learn, and apply at the same time. And even with startups, what you often see is that startups don't fail because they don't have the amount of capital. They fail because one, they try to grow too fast, and two, they really just stop listening. They just stop caring. And they stop launching and learning, right? And one of the things I love about what you talk about with lean AI and how companies are applying it is this opportunity to learn with feedback, with data, and just keep using that as a signal to grow.
Right, and so what you're talking about is sort of the classic virtuous cycle, where which is kind of the way that most AI machines work too. Because the way to
Yeah,
think of AI, I mean, the simplest definition is to try and get a machine to think like a human, right? Because
yeah,
most of the time, humans, you know, um, can take things in and then sort of figure out making a decision in terms of, do I go left or right, straight
yeah,
or back or whatever. And ideally, you want, if a machine can think on its own, then it's got the intelligence to replicate of how a human would make that decision, right?
yeah,
And like you said, at the core of it is, it's same with humans. It all comes down to what's coming inside your mind first, right? Like the data. What data are you getting? Let's take the current crisis as an example. If all you're going to do is watch a lot of the news, and there's just so much negativity
yeah,
and fear that's coming in, then naturally you're going to get more anxiety and scared about what's going to happen. And if you and the same thing would happen to a machine. If you feed a lot of bad things into the machine, then the machine's going to make bad decisions. But and so one thing that I kind of learned, when it came to AI, and I apply it to my own personal life too, is you got to filter what comes in.
it's true.
That means, first of all, make sure you're getting the right information coming in. And with
Yeah.
AI, make sure you're sharing the right data. Because if you share the right data, then it gives it the right perspective to kind of look at that and then figure out what's the right outcome that you're trying to get to.
I love that, and and it's so surprising how little people know about how data works and how AI works. And as someone that's studied this space, and I've formerly worked with as an AI product manager, people don't realize is that algorithms are always reasoning on every even micro behavior you're taking. If you're hovering over a comment, if you
Yeah.
make a comment, if you like a picture, where you visited before you landed on that page, all of that is used to inform and kind of get this macro overview of, oh, this person is going to make this informed decision around this purchase on Amazon, maybe. And I think it's often, very rare that we find people like you who create a book that really simplify for leaders as well as people. So make sure you check out Lean AI, which is on Amazon, and you can buy it right now. So I want to show love to our amazing audience.
Sure.
Giovanni is from Tech M. Hi, Tim and Lomit. Check out what we are doing in AI on an enterprise collaboration level. Exciting stuff. Some nice case studies with Fortune 500 companies. Shout out to you, Giovanni. Appreciate you for sharing that with us in the comments. Vera is saying, I also create all my stuff to be available online on demand, and now have a print and Kindle books and even custom made professional pinball shoes. Awesome to you, Elvira. I appreciate you for sharing that with us. Mr. Becca Bullet is agreed. TikTok is a company is creating AI-driven content that fill the gap for short content. Not the first case in short videos, but combining AI definitely creates an additional layer. Agree with that, Beck. I love that mention. So I would love to get y'all's thoughts. How are you seeing AI being used within your company or outside of your company? So let's talk about, and dive a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah.
I think we were just talking about data, and I want to talk to you like, what's the importance of data in today's workforce, right? Because even with this whole COVID-19 situation that you were talking about, we're seeing a lot of inputs that people are using to say, oh, this is predictive outcomes of how many cases we're going to see in a few years or in a few months, or this is how we can, as popularly known, is flatten the curve, right? So why do you think data is so important in today's working world?
So I think data is important because ultimately, everybody's trying to predict something, right?
Yeah.
In terms of what somebody's doing. And when it comes to specifically to work teams, I guess one of the questions everybody's trying to figure out is ultimately, is this person being productive or not, right? Based on whether they're working remotely
Mm,
or not, I mean, the reality is, you know, I know everybody talks about, that you got to be passionate about your work, you got to love your work,
mm,
your culture and all that. But if we get real, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just a transaction. I mean,
mm,
companies have paid us to do a specific role,
mm,
which is to provide value for them. That's what
mm,
it comes down to. I mean,
mm,
ultimately, you can simplify it in many different ways, or you can make it sound really rosy. But ultimately, we're just a number.
mm.
And so with data, they want to know that is this person doing what we're paying for in terms of,
Yeah,
are we getting the value out of this person? And
yeah,
so and so in terms of data, every person, generally people, have specific goals that get set for them, right,
yeah,
in different companies. So in terms of AI is going to be able to track, is this person tracking towards those goals or not, right?
yeah.
In terms of productivity, everybody, like you and I, if you're using like virtual Zoom meetings or whatever,
Mm.
people are sort of tracking. So how many AI can sort of track how is how often is this person online? Is he actually on? Is he logging in online?
Yeah.
Is he doing a full day of work, right, or not? And then they give you all these tools where they make it seem like it's really to try and make your work life easy, but it actually
Mm.
just makes you work harder if you think about
Yeah,
it. I mean, I
yeah,
mean, I mean, I mean. Now it's like I have to not only be, on Slack,
yeah,
email, text message. I mean, Zoom. There's all these different communication modes, and that you get bombarded with. But ultimately, you know, what's happening is we're leaving a digital footprint of what we're doing every day.
yeah,
That's what it comes down to. People, whether you like it or not, even when a company gives you a laptop, they have full rights to know what you're doing on that laptop, whether you're
yeah,
working in the office or not. And remotely, they can tell, like, when's the laptop turned on, how much time
yeah,
you spending on it. I mean, good or bad, but the reality is, it's all about um, you know so how companies are using data, and when people and teams is ultimately they're tracking all of your interactions of what you're doing throughout the day, and trying to
mm,
assess, I mean, I'll put this out there too. I mean, they're probably monitoring which websites you're going to too as well. It's like, is this person going to be a flight risk? Is this person really happy with what he's doing? Is
mm.
this person like spending time on like news sites? Is this person actually looking at job sites?
Yeah.
So,
Do you think we should be concerned about that though? Companies having too much oversight and kind of encroaching upon, privacy,
I,
right?
I mean, you know, to be honest, I mean, there's two schools of. I mean, I'll give you my thoughts on that. So
Mm.
one is like, I mean, if you're using their equipment and they're paying you for something,
Yeah.
then it's like, if you're a professional athlete, you got to stick to the diet, you got to stick to the training regimen
Yeah.
regime and everything else, because ultimately you are a commodity for that business, right?
Wow.
And but the other side of that is ultimately, you know, you know, what's happened to the good old fashioned trust?
Yeah.
It's like,
Agreed, man.
because if there's no trust at the end of the day, and then clearly it's a one sided relationship about
Yeah.
what's in it for me kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
generally,
agree with that.
and those relationships don't, and that's the reason why, those relationships don't last a long time, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, in terms of the work that I do, I don't necessarily need to be like online to be productive per se. Like,
Mm,
you know there's a difference between doing like busy work and working smart, and
mm.
by that, what I mean is that I don't need to just have my computer on just responding to emails just to show that I'm being busy, you need to sort of take a step back and sort of be thinking about what's going to happen 6 to 12 months down the road too.
Yeah.
If you just get too ingrained in kind of the day to day and too much in the weeds, then it's
Mm,
really hard to think about potentially
mm.
what's the next thing that could really make a material change for the business. And I'm talking from a growth standpoint. So so we're fortunate right now, or companies that have done a lot of automation
Yeah.
and have implemented AI are in a really good position right now. But these things didn't happen overnight. Somebody was thinking about this 2, 3, 4, 5 years down ahead before all of this got implemented. And I was doing the same thing too. I was thinking
Mm,
about for me, even though there wasn't like um, I was never thinking about a pandemic, but I was always thinking about if a recession ever hits,
yeah.
how are we going to continue to stay lean and be
Mm,
productive and continue to provide value to ensure that the business minimizes its risk to hitting those different revenue goals that it needs to continue to hit. And
yeah.
that's where the whole genesis around trying to think about AI and automation started coming in. And so now we're like some of the other companies are sort of reaping some of the benefits, but a lot of these seeds were planted
Years ago.
years ago. and
Yeah.
and the same thing now. It's like if you're working in something, the question I always ask myself, and and it doesn't maybe sound like a really good question, is that how can I replace myself, basically,
Wow. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because it's like because before somebody else replaces me, I want to figure out how I can sort of replace and disrupt myself.
Yeah.
And by that standpoint, I don't literally mean that I want to just be out of a job, but what I mean is that
Mm,
if I can find value in how to do what I'm doing more productively, and
mm.
think about the skill set that I need to try and move up level myself, then I'm always going to continue to add value to any company that I'm at, right?
I love that. I love,
Yeah.
and what I love about what you're mentioning is that we need to develop more trust in organizations, because one of the things I hate because I've worked within organizations like this where they treat people as a commodity,
Yeah.
right? Like an expense on a spreadsheet. And it's actually the sickest thing that you can do as an organization. And especially when you're thinking about how do we, implement lean AI methodologies. One, you have to realize your talent is your most important asset. And the faster they learn, the faster they can implement these methodologies in a successful framework that scales. And one of the things I've really been adamant about, Guy, although we're still really at the startup phase and we're growing, is the
Yeah.
fact that you have to, for you as a leader, you have to document what is the framework that you want the people that are asset within your team, your company, to adhere to and really follow through with, in terms of what good leadership looks like. How do we learn and document our learnings? And I think often, a lot of organizations are going to struggle in this new era, I think post COVID-19, of how do we develop more trust, especially now that they have a fully remote workforce. It's going to be even harder, because if you never had a culture before, how do you now reinforce and promote culture beyond the four walls when there is no walls, right? Everyone's remote.
You're right. And one of the things that I've you know I mean, it's something that's kind of I've learned from having some really good managers. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, my lesson in life is that we're all going to have some bad managers and we're going to have some good managers, right?
true.
But you can
It's
learn
true.
from both of them, because
Yeah,
from the good ones you can learn what to do more of, and from the bad ones you can learn what to avoid, right? So
yeah.
you don't end up becoming replicating those bad behaviors to once you sort of become a manager. Uh,
Mm,
but you know but the reality is, with trust, uh, it's one of those things where people sort of come from the standpoint like it has to be
mm,
earned, but that might be true. Yeah, I mean, and trust has to be earned, but the reality is it first has to be given. And rather than taken away, if that makes
mm.
sense. I always like the standpoint of a good analogy, like if you go to school, wouldn't it be great if your teacher or said to you, everybody's starting off with an A versus everybody starting off with an F, right? And you got to work
Yeah,
your
yeah.
way to an A. So you've got the A, all right. Now it's up to you to do what you can to keep it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah.
different mindset, right?
Yeah.
And so, for me, what I learned, being a manager is first of all, you got to, you just got to be authentic in terms of, like, if you're going to say, if you're going to ask someone else to do something, you should be ready to and willing to do it yourself, right? and and
Mm.
and and yet- and also, you should be able to be ready and willing to trust someone right from the get-go, because otherwise, why did you hire them in the first place, right? Did you
Mm.
hire them to try and just micromanage people? Because most people don't want to be micromanaged, right? I
True.
mean, you know I mean, even as kids, we sort of get micromanaged to a certain extent with parents, but after a while, once you become a teenager, that stuff doesn't work, right? Because then you start
Mm.
having a rebellion, because then you want your parents to trust you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the same thing with employees. So, I feel, companies that generally, you know I mean, at the end of the day, you can say all these wonderful things about, hey, our company culture is this, we give free this or whatever, but none of
Yeah.
that means squat, because ultimately it comes down to how is your manager practicing and preaching that to the teams that they're managing, right? Because
I love
ultimately,
that.
yeah. So, I feel that, one thing that I haven't seen a lot of in companies, but I think managers should be given a lot more training to really become managers.
Agreed.
It's just like anything, it's like I could, I'll just take a good analogy. It's like, I take soccer. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a good soccer player, but becoming a captain of a team is a whole different thing from just being like an individual contributor,
Whole different ball game.
a whole different ballgame. Yeah. And so what I've learned, and the simplest way is, you know, people always, and I used to think this way too. It's so
Yeah.
nice to be like, an executive or whatever,
Mm.
or a manager. But the reality is, as you move higher up, you got to start. It's less about you, and it's more about the people that are under you. You got to
Yeah.
start thinking about others before yourself. Which is
Yeah.
the whole concept of like servant leadership. You
Yeah.
know,
So I want to show love to our amazing community who's been sharing a lot of lovely gems and comments
yeah,
in the comments. So Lorena is saying leaders must document what is the framework you want your team to adhere to. Shout out to Lorena. She is taking notes. But
yeah,
Shara is saying great conversation and format. I love what you're saying. Love it. It is awesome. Elvira is talking about, definitely automate the mundane, leaving you to handle what a human brain is needed for. So creativity, empathizing, and really strategizing on outcomes. So shout out to Elvira for mentioning that. Lorena is like, how can I replace myself? So I think she was really feeling what you were saying, Lomit,
yeah.
about thinking about how do you use data to really replicate yourself and duplicate yourself in a product or a system, which is very interesting because I think, that leaves us the opportunity to work at a higher strategic role, right? So another comment is Susan's like, absolutely, what you all are saying is fascinating. So shout out to Susan for showing love and commenting there. If you are loving this episode of the Unleashing the Future of Work, make sure you share it with your network and tag Lomit and I. We are active on LinkedIn. Share it with your network. Tag us on what you're learning, and we'll definitely comment and follow up. In addition to that, check out breakintobigtech.com. It is a course and program that I'm doing with my lovely friend, John Marty, that will help those who are interested in getting into tech today. So definitely check it out, especially as the world is moving remote. High-tech companies are actually still hiring. So check out breakintobigtech.com. In addition to that, I want to talk, I want to really cap us off and talk about how do you believe teams are going to work with AI-driven systems in the future, right? Because I think that's a really interesting space that we don't talk about often.
Yeah, and and I talk about this in the book, and it's primarily based on the way I've kind of set up my team right now. But
Yeah.
but once you have like an AI system, it's like, you know the the focus of the team suddenly moves away from like, hey, what are we going to do individually to try and help the company, and it's going to be more
Yeah.
sort of pivoted towards how we're going to help support the machine to do a lot of that hard work for us.
Yeah.
So the shift is really to figure out, what are the inputs that the machine needs to continue to function and be productive, right? Because the machine
Mm.
machine ends up becoming the workhorse versus the human. The human becomes the kind of the trainer and the strategic thinker
Mm,
about how the machine's going to continue to evolve to help the team to be more successful. And
mm,
so, from quick examples from our standpoint, in terms of skills, one person is going to be kind of like the product person who's going to overlook kind of the
yeah,
machine and just make sure it's like the human is the heart functioning well, right? Are the
yeah,
arms still
yeah,
flapping, right? Is
yeah,
the
yeah.
person still able to walk? Then you got another person, who's going to make sure, just like with a human, is it getting the right nutrition? Is it eating the right stuff? Which is like, is it getting the
Mm,
right data coming in
the
to
right inputs.
right inputs into the system? And
Yeah.
and then the other thing you're going to have, at least for us, you know, um, you know, because we use it a lot for, like, acquiring new customers. We use it for a lot for advertising. So part of that is all these different creative ads. Is the machine getting enough of the ads so it can kind of look at all these different advertising that we're running to really figure
Mm,
out what's working or what's not working? So another person sort of takes over, kind of managing all of the creative side of input in the
mm,
machine. And and and, and then the other side is, and the machine at the end of the day isn't going to be the one that's going to go and sort of talk to, let's say, Google and Facebook and stuff and say, I want this or I want that.
yeah,
You're still going to need a human to manage those relationships with different partners that ultimately that the machine's helping you to work with, right?
yeah,
So you're going to need a relationship builder. And then internally, and I found this too, you know you're going to need somebody who's going to be a cheerleader for the whole AI thing,
yeah, yeah,
and it has to be more than just, the person sort of heading up growth. You have to try and get, like, your CEO or some executive who's going to continue to sort of be the mouth and the earpiece to basically tell the rest of the company the good news that, hey, this is really helping us all to do better, right?
yeah, yeah. They
Yeah.
can champion
Yeah,
this.
that's right.
Yeah,
So you still, and that ideally has to come from someone more than just the people on the team, right?
yeah.
But you need someone on the team to continue to feed that information to the champion, so the champion can sort of become the
Mm.
the
Evangelist.
evangelist to share all that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Lomit, I love this. I love
Yeah.
this. Thank you so much for sharing this information with our lovely community. And more importantly, coming on the Unleashing the Future of Work live online podcast. Community, if you have any question that you want me to ask Lomit, please let me know. I will be serving him some questions to cap it off. And, with this said, Lomit, where can people find more about your work that you're doing around Lean AI and your thought leadership?
Yeah, so a couple of places. The best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. So if they just search for Lomit Patel, they should be able to find me. And feel free to reach out to me because I love to connect with new people. So if they reach out, I'll definitely accept the invitation. But the other thing that I do on LinkedIn is I'm always posting things every day on new
Mm,
stuff that I'm learning or things around AI and automation. So there's a lot of good content they can find there. The other thing that I like doing is I like writing a lot of articles too. So I have my own blog site called lomitpatel.com. So people can
mm.
go there, can find a lot of content that I've written before and new stuff that I continue to add. They can find on that blog site as well.
I love it. So check out Lomit's blog site and definitely follow him on LinkedIn. And with that said, I would love, if you're interested in being on a future episode or sponsoring a future episode of the Unleashing the Future of Work, a guide podcast, check out utfow.com. If you're interested in being a guest or sponsor, definitely check us out. We are probably the most popular series on LinkedIn right now. So we would love to have you as a sponsor or a guest. And more importantly, if you are interested in getting into tech and understand how do you get a job as an AI product manager or work with Lomit and his team on AI product teams, we are helping you out with that in the breakintobigtech.com course that I'm doing with my lovely friend John Marty, who's incredibly active and is a PM at Amazon as well. So check out breakintobigtech.com. With that said, Lomit, it's been an honor having you on the Unleashing the Future of Work live online podcast. You are brilliant, man. And I can't wait for the entire world to have Lean AI in their hand and use it as a playbook to really build AI-driven teams.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all. Peace, love, and
Yeah.
see you tomorrow. All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye.